Okay,
Can you close the sidebar that says all the people who are on? Thank you. Yeah, just X out of it. Thanks. There we go. Oh, Andrea's got to go. That's right.
this is Andrea Zimmerman, who's leaving the room, unfortunately. She's the newly appointed delegate to the Salesian Family for the province, for the province here in eastern United States.
I'll give you a quick hug.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Say hello to your mother.
Thanks. Thank you for everything.
So for those who are new here, who haven't been through the wonderful yellow brick road that we have transversed over the past 2 days, we are coming toward the wizard, toward the fulfillment, toward the end product, toward the next stop of our journey as followers of Saint John Bosco, in bringing Christ to the world and to God and Christ's kingdom. And this last part has to do with what occurred after Vatican Council II that opened the doors to the Salesian family in all of its varieties. Up until that point, canon law very limited the ability of lay people to exercise ministry within the church. I mean, that was open, but it was fairly limited, and the ability to follow Christ as a lifestyle was somewhat limited to consecrated life, and we were hindered. As members of the Salesian family was hindered from using their creativity, imagination, and the local circumstance to formulate a way of life, a structure of life, which more met their situation and their spirituality. So we certainly want to listen carefully to these changes and the ways in which it not only opens up but orients us in living our consecration as a complete Salesian family. I'd like to take credit for this presentation, but I didn't write it. The one who wrote it is someone who is from the. Wait a minute. That is not the one. Let me get out of here because the. Oh well. The. Why is it that I have the wrong version up?
So the person who did this, Father, find what you got. His name is Renato Cursi, and he was very much involved with the Salesian youth movement for many years at the top level in Rome. And now he has created a ministry and a website and a work within the Salesian family, but not as an official member of the Salesian family, that works in Rome to do social promotion, but in such a way that they're really reaching out on the level of faith and evangelization, in addition to all sorts of ministry to people who are in need. And it's based in Rome, and he works with the Salesians there at the Generalate now in near Sacred Heart Basilica, on the grounds of Sacred Heart Basilica. And he is the one who is leading that at this point. So he's definitely fully involved and immersed in the Salesian mission as a layperson. So he is the one who actually gave a talk to the SDB delegates who were gathered to speak about the layperson in the church. He himself has drawn on the documents of Lumen Gentium, Christi Fidelis Laity. It was he who put the whole talk together, and it is very deep and very inspiring. Can you find it?
I'm just going to use this one.
Okay. Let's just close out of that one. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so somewhere in here is a version that I would have given the smiling face of Mr. Corsi. And what he's now in his current job is for the executive director of the Salesians outreach toward the poor in Europe. So he's someone who's well qualified in many ways to offer us. He is a layperson. He's a husband. He's a father, and has been involved in a Salesian mission for decades. So we certainly appreciate him. And he wants to know why we are here today. This originally was given to the province delegates of the Salesian family in the English-speaking world. This is why it's in English. We're here today with humble and joyful gratitude. We acknowledge that Don Bosco, by the initiative of God and the maternal mediation of Mary, gave rise in the church to a singular experience of evangelical life, and today has the shape of an apostolic family composed of institutes of consecrated life, religious and secular, and the apostolate of and the apostolic lay associations. We spent the last couple of days looking at all of these different groups in the book, which is the book of I can't show it anyway. Is the Salesian Family of Don Bosco. We've spent a lot of the last couple of days looking that over. We recognize together that we have to go back to the origins, not only to an etymological or historical sense, but even in a theological and ecclesiological one, of the word layperson and its meaning for us today. So we're looking at lay people and laypersons and the way in which Vatican II freed up lay people for full participation in the church and its ministries, and the way in which we can live our vocation as lay people within the church and within the Salesian family. To go beyond the challenges of our local, provincial, and Salesian family realities, to understand the specific features of this word in the world and universal context of the church. Everyone here recognizes the urgent need we have of a greater contribution to the layperson in the apostolate of evangelization and the Christian animation of the temporal order. But we together recognize that there's a need to promote within the church and the Salesian family a common vision of the criteria that this contribution should refer to and of the orientations that it should follow. So the goals. Sister, you want to read a couple of those?
1, understand why the church presents the layperson as a vocation. 2, reflect on the forms and the ways of this vocation, as well as on the criteria and guidelines that the church offers. And 3, let ourselves be challenged by 3 paths of work for the future.
Laikos, Greek word, indicating a person. When you come down to it, the definition of lay is someone who's not a clergyman. And it's not very helpful to identify yourself in a negative sentence, because it says what you are not, but not what you are. So, foundations of a vocation, of a lay vocation. As it is true, what has been recently stated by Pope Francis in the apostolic exhortation Amoris Laetitia, or that Christian marriage is a vocation, so too the statement made by the Second Vatican Council on the laity. Just as Christian marriage is not a mere adaptation to an alleged natural tendency of the human being to monogamy, so the Christian laity is not a simple human living that embraces an a la carte faith. So it is a very definite direction and delimited pathway to holiness within the church. So now the foundations of a vocation. After the Second Vatican Council, you find that there were the two or many statements that came out to clarify and amplify what was written in Gaudium et Spes in the Vatican Council, and Lumen Gentium. Lumen Gentium was the apostolic constitution of the church, and Apostolicam Actuositatem is written by Pope John the 23rd. So those are the two foundations that will explain to us. And then you have Christi Fidelis Laici, 1988, Pope John Paul II, not long after he was elected, came out with this statement, beautiful statement about the role of the layperson in the church. Christi Fidelis Laici. Gaudete and Exultate, and a wonderful apostolic declaration written by Pope Francis, which deals heavily with all members of the church, but in a special way, lay people. Give them a light into the way that they live their Christian life and live out their baptism.
Would somebody like to read? Go ahead.
Affected by Christ embraces two dimensions: the salvation of men, and together the renewal of the whole temporal order. The church aims not only to bring the message and grace of Christ to men, but also to penetrate and perfect the temporal order with the spirit of the gospel. It is a question of recognizing that the spiritual order and the temporal or secular order are so distinct, but at the same time so connected in the singular plan of God that he himself intends to raise up the whole world again in Christ and to make it a new creation, initially on earth and completely on the last day.
So this is the basic intent of these three documents, and trying to point out the role of a layperson, particularly where you have the temporal or the secular order, and at the same time the plan of God. Looking at it from the connector between the human or the secular and the divine, and they say would be a very, very crucial position. Someone else?
Christians are indistinguishable from other men, either by nationality, language, or customs. They do not inhabit separate cities of their own, or speak a strange dialect, or follow some outlandish way of life. Their teaching is not based upon reveries inspired by the curiosity of men. Unlike some other people, they champion no purely human doctrine. With regard to dress, food, and manner of life in general, they follow the customs of whatever city they happen to be living in, whether it is Greek or foreign, and yet there is something extraordinary about their lives.
This is about the effectiveness, the power, the dynamism, the transformative quality of the simple life of a layperson lived in society. That you can imagine that someone who walks around with a collar or with a veil and a habit, you look at them acting in a certain way and you say, well, what do you expect? They're going to act that way anyway. That's part of who they are. But a layperson coming in and acting in a way that is truthful, acting in a way that is trusting, a way that is generous, sacrificial, that is relational in the way that family can be relational. That attracts your attention because you don't take that for granted. That is that is not just a part of the style of life that I have chosen and live in a very open and a transparent way, but rather just as a simple person. Something extraordinary about their lives. There's something extraordinary about their lives. I don't know if any of you have had I'm sure all of us have had it. They're saying, gee, there's something different about that person. There's something deep. There's something that I feel as though I want to be a part of. It's remarkable for its goodness, for its creativity, for its loving nature, for its vulnerability. Whereas another person, you see, a policeman or woman can go in and act and save someone's life, and it certainly is laudatory, praiseworthy. He's a first responder. That's his job. That was what we're trained for. Someone who breaks in and pulls them out, just an ordinary civilian, it's the same action, but you say, boy, that's extraordinary. That he didn't plan on that, or she didn't plan on that. Paradox is something that, due to its content or the form in which it is expressed, appears to be contrary to common opinion and is therefore surprising or incredible. And that's what these documents speak to, the power of Christian living lived authentically within the community as a layperson. Not in acting out a role, not in fulfilling a task that is officially recognized, but simply living the life of Christ in a simple way. The life of the Christian must arouse a question, a surprise, a wonder in the observer, and in those who interact in various forms with her. And this is especially valid for the Christian layperson, who more than the priest or the consecrated person is called to spend time with men in the world. I remember in the 1960s having a discussion. Discussion is too soft. There was an argument in a religious community of saying that a layperson's witness of faith cannot possibly be stronger than that of a consecrated religious.
True.
And you say, well, it's not ranking 1, 2, 3, but that is an unfair statement. It's the different vocations, and you can't line them up in that manner. So a question, a surprise, a wonder in the observer and in those who interact in various forms with him or her, and this is especially valid for the Christian layperson.
I thought I saw Miss Millie raise her hand. Maybe I missed it.
Miss who?
Millie.
Millie.
Oh, Millie. Okay. Yes, Millie.
Just her microphone is off.
Maybe she was waiting.
I'm right here. What's up?
Did you put your hand up?
I didn't.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Okay, good.
Bye.
Nice to see you again.
I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. Why do we have Sister, can you read the
He is called by God to witness to men with his her life the tension between, on the one hand, the adjustment and participation in the essential situation in which she happens to be, and on the other hand, a certain detachment from and overcoming of the existence in faith, hope, and above all in charity.
Okay, so this is on the peculiarity of the vocation of the Christian layperson. And the point being brought out is that there's a lot in the life of the layperson can't be pre-planned. So much comes up unexpectedly, and there's a response that is required. Child is sick, I got to go to work. In the way in which we lay people deal with those things is very different from the way at least a consecrated religious does. And many times, and in many ways, that is the indicator of faith active in life, and that is attractive and startling to others. The existential situation in which he or she happens to be, and a certain detachment from and an overwhelming of the extent faith, hope, and love, and in charity. This is. Does this make sense to you? For you? Yeah.
So if I'm understanding right, it's like each situation, as you said, is very unpredictable, but it's the common response of love in those
Yes.
situations.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like Jesus. Some of his most powerful teachings did not occur on the mountainside, not to take anything off of the Sermon on the Mount. That was wonderful. But a lot of the really powerful things happened when Jesus was on his way from this place to that place, and someone came up to him and said, his response is revelatory in the way of his person. He could have planned the Sermon on the Mount out and delivered it as a speech. I'm sure he didn't. It came from the heart. But there's no way that he could have faked or could have pre-planned the gospel today, where he walked in and the blind man called out his name, and he went through that whole conversation. So, all right, this is what this is trying to bring up: the peculiarity of the vocation of the Christian layperson. Fields of lay apostolate. This is important. And I think we're going to look at this a little bit with what we were talking about this morning. Fields of action for the lay apostolate. This is Pope John the 23rd, but you're also going to find it in Christi Fidelis Laity by Pope John Paul II, St. John Paul II. They're both saints. In church communities, that's where the lay apostolate could fall. The lay apostolate in church communities. The family, youth, social milieu, the national and international order. These are the places, the areas, the arenas in which the lay vocation is called to shine, to come forth, to be active. Because the lay can act in ways that the consecrated religious can't, or the ordained minister can't. The family. You just see a family come into church on Sunday for Mass. And they come into this row, maybe it's 2, 3. We had 5 one time. I'm sure more than one time. But just to see them there as a worshiping family, the domestic church, there's a proclamation there. And it's offered by a layperson. Youth. Serving young people, especially young adults. The social milieu, society. You know what's interesting? See this list here. Go over the strenas that we celebrated in the last couple of years. How many of those strenas find their way into this list?
A few.
A few.
All of them, really.
Amoris Laetitia, youth, the whole social milieu, the whole thing about good Christians, leaven, and lay people in general, leaven. Sometimes we look at our strenas as a Salesian family and we say, that's very nice. That's like a good night, very nice. We say thank you and go off. Their program of life that are based upon the way the church is directing us as with the lay component in the church community to live out their call. Very specific helps. But sometimes we don't pay attention to them. We say it's just another strena. It's not for me. Here you have probably the best description of Don Bosco's mission was written by Father Chavez in the 2009 strena. It's terrific. Just terrific.
What was the 2009 strand?
Excuse me?
What was the 2009 strand?
It was the first stage of our celebration of 2015, Don Bosco's, the centennial of Don Bosco's birth. And it was trying to get us to look at Don Bosco's educational system. Okay, adults, why don't we do this? Can you read there?
Adults ought to engage in such friendly discussions with young people that both age groups, overcome the language barrier, may become more acquainted and experience sexual conflict which generations for the others. Adults should stimulate young persons, first by good example, to take part in the apostolate, and if the opportunity presents itself, by offering them effective advice and willing assistance.
All right, this is the way in which the Holy Father speaks of lay people, adults who could engage in friendly discussion with young people. We had another pope who wrote I suppose, an apostolic exhortation pretty recently. Isn't that right? Christus Vivit. Christus Vivit is very similar to this. And it's speaking of the way in which we can be with young people and the entire youth ministry community would be called to that. Speaks of the lay apostolate as both personal and associated. And you see, this is Christi Fidelis Laity. He says the primacy is given to the call of every Christian to holiness. Every Christian is called to holiness. That's not new to us. St. Francis de Sales said that. That was the hallmark of his contribution to the church. And I've heard recently someone say that the one doctor of the church, or father doctor of the church, who is mentioned most in Vatican II is St. Francis de Sales.
The full title of the Strena from 2009 was "Let us commit ourselves to making the Salesian family a vast movement of persons for the salvation of the young."
Okay. And then the responsibility of professing the Catholic faith, a witness to a strong and authentic communion, conformity to and participation in the Church's apostolic goals, and a commitment to a presence in human society. The of those that I would highlight with the lay apostolate, which is part of many of our Salesian family members, would be that of a strong and authentic communion.
And it's good that it's a personal and associated, because I'm thinking of, that humanistic thinking and ideal that they were seeking back in the 13th and 14th centuries. When you look at Alberto Marvelli, who's a past pupil of the SDB, he was fully invested in his society and politics in his town, living it in a fully Christian Catholic manner and reaching out to all those who were poor. If only the humanists had been able to see the reality that if it's based on God, everything they said was fine. And Alberto was able to live that. He was a Christian humanist, as St. Francis de Sales was teaching Christian humanism. So it's not all bad. But you did a great job, Tim, but it's not all bad.
Certainly, the Church's apostolic goals, we as members of the Salesian family, as members of the Church, we give ourselves fully to the achievement, to the process of achieving those goals. So, for instance, we're going into the Holy Year next year, the Holy Year of Hope. There's some pretty serious theological and pastoral implications to that theme. Hope is not merely sitting back patiently waiting for God to come in and set up his kingdom on earth. Hope is also an active participation in that coming of the kingdom and making elements of God's kingdom present in our daily life.
We have to say goodbye.
Okay.
We have to say goodbye.
Oh, is she coming back?
No, she's got to go to Miami.
No, but she's not coming back here.
Well, in a second, yes.
Okay.
I'll take care of that.
So it is almost telling youth ministers and parish priests and parish councils and so forth to do your job. Make the church effective in helping to display the elements of the kingdom of God and its presence. So it is the hope in anticipation and a hope in seminal form that could be fulfilled by God's coming, Christ's coming the second time. Sometimes we dispense ourselves from these things within the church, and we ought not to do that. Criteria for accompaniment of the lay faithful, and that would be mostly for whoever it is who's an organizer or an administrator or a pastor or someone who is a coordinator, a delegate, whatever. Union with God, union with the church, co-responsibility, joint responsibility, and joy, generativity. These the criteria of accompaniment of the lay faithful. Father Chavez, in a talk right here where I'm sitting, actually, last May came through and spoke to a retreat of Salesian cooperators, and he went beyond co-responsibility. He said, "No, you're not only co-responsible for the mission of Don Bosco, you are responsible for it. So take it up. That is a part of your baptism. Now you can't go off on your own, and as a member of the Salesian family, we have to do it together. Do it with others as a part of a community, big or small."
In the depths of his conscience, man detects a law which he does not impose upon himself, but which holds him to obedience, always summoning him to love good and avoid evil. The voice of conscience, when necessary, speaks to his heart. Do this, shun that. For man has in his heart a law written by God. To obey it is the very dignity of man. According to it, he will be judged. Conscience is the most secret core and sanctuary of a man. There he is alone with God, whose voice echoes in his depths.
So that's from Gaudium et Spes, Vatican II. Speaks about how am I going to get the authority to act on behalf of Christ and his kingdom and his mission? It said, well, it's through baptism, and it's in the depth of your conscience, depths of your heart. Act upon it. Union with the church, anticipate one another in showing honors, taking care of one another's vocation, co-responsibility. We certainly have a number of. I think every one of our groups, whether it be the ADMA, whether it be the Don Bosco Volunteers, whether it be the cooperators, SDB FMA, you have members who ever now and then seem to lose their steam, stop coming to meetings, stop participating in activities, stop coming to church for prayer, whatever it might be. This is the way we can act and co-responsibly to take care of one another's vocation, of giving a call, giving a write, giving a letter, giving a note, encouraging them. Any thoughts of yours on some of these? Speaking about joy, I have only one wish: to see you happy both in this world and in the next. Salesians are healthy bearers of the joy of the gospel, so called. So says Pope Francis. So any thoughts from the group here or online about breaking open the vocation of the layperson and how it's needed in our times and society, and especially within the Salesian family?
I know within our group there are some elderly people that don't come to meetings, but we tend to give them a call every once in a while, and they are so they read everything that we send, and they pray an awful lot for everything. And even though we don't see them, they're there. They're there. They're thinking of what the many years they've been as Salesians and what it means. So once in a while, we should get in contact with them, even though we don't see them.
Thank you. Miss Jeannie?
Yes, I believe the cooperators have their family unity and anywhere they are. The biggest thing to me is relationship. If we can form a friendship and a relationship, Jesus is surely in our midst, no matter where we are. And as Salesians, that joyful, I know I'm in Florida now. I'm trying, I left my unit in New York, but there are Salesians here. There's a unit here in Florida. And so you don't forget the people in New York, and it's the relationships. I know people for Dennis, and I know people for 40 years already, and yet we love them. It doesn't mean that we don't see them, but there is a bond. There's a bond of family. I don't see my kids. One kid's a senior in college, grandkids college, and one's in Boston. But that love is there. I can always text or send a birthday card. So I believe in my heart, my vocation is really one of being a mother, being blessed mothers, love to them by a relationship. I know I'm not as sophisticated, but that I believe relationship is the most important.
Thank you, Jeannie. Beautiful statement of the minute of the vocation of the layperson.
Mm-hmm.
On that sense of co-responsibility, it reminds me of something that Richard Barron put out several years ago, but it was a discussion on why people leave the church. And the survey that We're on Fire had done found that the main reason people were leaving the church wasn't actually issues with the theology, but it was the lack of relationships.
Yeah,
They
really.
Once I left, nobody noticed. Like I stopped going to church and nobody reached out. So I went to somewhere where I would be seen.
Right.
And he said that that gives you in one sense, a great sense of hope because it's not like there's some big theological issue. But on the other side, the issue is community. How do we form authentic Christian community?
Right.
Thank you. Okay. We move on then. This is the common identity card of the Salesian family. Now, this is the older version. We need to grow together. Moreover, we are called to do so, but only by necessities, not only by necessities and times. Oh, Sister Teresa.
Thank you so much.
We're saying a farewell.
God bless you. Okay, thanks for everything. It's
Thank
been
you.
wonderful.
Sister Teresa is the new provincial delegate for the Salesian family for the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians. She's in the Salesian community in Miami. So we wish her well. She's been with us the whole weekend and contributed to our meetings. Safe trip.
Thank you, Teresa. She'll be seeing the ones in Miami soon.
Okay. Tim, can you read the bottom there, the co-responsible collaboration?
The co-responsible collaboration between consecrated persons, priests, and lay faithful in the Salesian family is a gift of the Spirit. It is not a mere reaction or adaptation to the decline in vocations of Salesian consecrated persons. The forms of this co-responsibility can change in time and space, but the substance is the same since the origins of this charismatic story.
This is an important statement because a lot of folks think that we are inviting lay people to take part in the Salesian mission and to work side by side with consecrated religious and priests because we don't have enough vocations to the priesthood or to religious life. That is not true. The essence and the real answer is that we eventually would have come to the realization that lay people have a valid vocation that needs to be acted upon and inserted into the Salesian mission. We would have come to that in any case. It just so happened that historically, a drop-off in SDB FMA vocations kind of occasioned it. But it helped us to go back to the way it was at the time of Don Bosco, the way the oratory had a rather limited number of consecrated religious and priests, but a lot of lay people. So in other words, this is a return to the way it was in Valdoco, not in every aspect, but at least in what they say, the mixture between consecrated persons, lay, and priests together as a Salesian family. So this I think is an important point. Now, three possible paths to grow together in this communion and corresponding mission to the Salesian family in the church and to the world. And these, I will admit, can be somewhat controversial because not everybody agrees with him. The first one is overcoming the tango of clericalism. This is Renato's phrase. The tango of clericalism is that you have someone who is an ordained or a consecrated religious and feels as if he or she is in charge, no matter what. And you have other people who come up who are working as lay people, who are administering different parts of that mission, and there's that little dance where I can do this, I can't do that. Is it possible? How do I address this proposal? And there was a pretty interesting description that he had. It's really clericalism, and it's not really limited to clergy. You could have clericalism in a layperson who has been in charge of the young adult group for 20 years, for instance, and rejects every suggestion that is different from him or for her. You could have it in convents, clericalism, even though no one has a Roman collar, of someone who exerts her opinion over the others because of status or because of position. Now, there are ways in which, of course, constitutionally, the decision of the superior counts, but not in everything. So, and then investing in formation, including joint formation. This is Exhibit A. This is the big issue with regard to formation of our staffs, religious, priests, lay people. When we gather together to do a formation program, when we gather together a formation program of teachers, of administrators, of boards, do we do it with the religious and the lay people together? Or do we do it only the lay people? You do not have unanimity in that answer. Some say, I've been at this for 30 years as a professed religious. I don't need that. But on the other hand, if you're going to collaborate with a layperson, don't you think you ought to talk about what your common goals are and how you're going to work together to bring them about? So these are not easily solved, and I don't want to offer easy answers. At our Salesian Family Festival, Brian, was it? No, it wasn't Brian. The one who spoke from Berkeley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian.
What he was saying what you, a layperson, he works with lay people, forming lay people to work within the church, and many of them get involved in parish work. And they say, well, with this tango of clericalism, can I do what I want? Can I establish a program? Can I not establish a program because I'm director of this program? And he said, yes, you are certainly responsible. You're responsible for everything in that religious education program, and you can develop it as you would like. But you don't have the authority, and you don't have the ability to back it up corporately. So the pastor is going to have to say something, because if something goes wrong and there's a complaint, or if there's a lawsuit, God bless us, it's the parish that's going to be responsible. So you might be responsible, but you might not be authorized to make that decision. You might have to go through a parish council to make that decision. That's part. Sean
Bryan.
Sean Bryan.
Yes.
Okay, got half of it right. It was a very good answer.
And we can put in an advertisement here for the YouTube channel of the portal. We've got his whole talk
Okay.
uploaded. From collaboration to co-responsibility. Sean Brian with a Y, and it's on the Don Bosco Salesian Portal YouTube channel.
Okay. Let's have this, let's see, can you read there, this next one?
Let us consider that today more than 60% of parishes, of dioceses I don't know, but only a little fewer, do not have a finance or a pastoral council. What does this mean? It means that the parish or diocese is led with a clerical spirit by the priest alone, and that it does not implement synodality in the parish, in the diocese, which is not a novelty under this pope. No, it is a matter of canon law. The parish priest is obliged to have a council of lay people, for and with laymen, women, and women religious for pastoral ministry and financial affairs. And they do not do this. This is the danger of clericalism in the church today.
Okay, go ahead.
We must go ahead and remove this danger, because the priest is a servant of the community. The bishop is a servant of the community. He is not the head of a firm. No, this is important.
And that would, we have a right to expect and a right to remind people of that if we are in that situation. And this, of course, is Pope Francis. The fruit of this synod, the choice that the Spirit has inspired in us through listening and discernment, is to walk with the young, going out toward everyone so as to bear witness the love of God. We could describe this process by speaking the synodality and mission or missionary solidarity, paths to grow together. You know, that is from the Youth Synod. All right, so we're going to just move by a little quickly. We certainly want to have, with formation, to involve lay people and to involve young people, to involve professed religious and priests, all involved in it, so that together we might be able to more faithfully proclaim the gospel and espouse Don Bosco's mission. So therefore, things like this are perfect. Now, if we have to be aware of a layperson and life, his or her life. You can't run a program such as this and offer it on a Monday morning at 9:00, because most lay people wouldn't be able to attend. You have to start off with scheduling it with the intent that we want them to take part, not that just they're invited. And to have parts of it delivered by a layperson, so that they can speak of the layperson's life, everyday life, rather than of life as perceived by a consecrated person or a priest. That's why groups have as a formator, such as the cooperators, the formator has to be a layperson. The priest or the religious might take part and provide input to the program that is being offered, but shouldn't be the one who establishes what experience we're going to talk about when we're discussing forgiveness, for instance. Because the way that a layperson, a married person, configures or thinks of forgiveness is very different from the way that a religious would. And the way that I do it doesn't necessarily apply or appeal to a lay person. So in the Salesian family, when we are doing formation, lay people who make up the bulk of the membership has to be a big part in the formation of formative interactions and programs.
And with that, though, Father, the layperson has to be properly already
Yes.
and knowledgeable. You can't just take anybody and say, okay, now you're the formator. The person has to have proper preparation, and that's part of the sacrifice of fulfilling the role, for example, as a cooperator. If I am going to be called to service a certain area, I have to prepare myself and seek preparation for that, even from outside sources. So there's a two-way street there. It can't just be automatically assumed that because I bear a name, I'm ready to do this job. Preparation needs to be there.
And to echo that, sister, I feel like that also goes with religious and those of that service, because sometimes it's just assumed, oh, you are this, therefore you're qualified. And I think it's important for us to be transparent about, okay, I can speak to this and that I can't. And that's the humble pie that I think we need to be more ready to eat. Myself starting, and just that reality, we're not qualified for everything just because we wear a veil or a collar.
Right, exactly. Like Father was saying, he was going to be put into probably campus ministry. So I need an internship in this so I learn what it means to be a campus minister. You don't go into something saying, oh, I can do this, but I don't know anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yes.
That's a real problem. That's a real problem we have, is that when the people who serve, let's say on a council, and we have laws, we have canon laws that in the amount of years we can serve. And when it comes to getting somebody else to serve, people don't volunteer, number one, and if they volunteer, they go into it without even knowing what the heck they need to do. And there's a lack of consciousness from the previous servers to give, to instruct, not just to, okay, you're the next whatever, and you back out. That's a real problem everywhere. And I don't know how we can change that. I really don't know that, because I complain about it all the time, and it doesn't seem to happen. There's a real problem in that. I remember when they got a new coordinator, and that person never came to meetings. She volunteered. Here are the books, and that's it. I mean, that's unconscionable. But it happens all the time.
Well, I don't know about all the time, but it happens for sure, and it happens in more places than at least that we would be comfortable with.
Exactly.
And part of our challenge is to reach out to invite new members into all of the different groups of the Salesian family, so that they can grow within that Salesian family and eventually take over the responsibilities that are currently being offered by people who've been at it for a while and can be prepared for that. But as long as we go without really putting on a strong move to invite and to form, this will continue until we just peter out. So it's for me, it's an urgency which
Yes.
which we can't let go. I just want to go on. We don't have many of these points. Joint formation of people, religious and priests, and paying attention especially to the presence of women and Christian couples, such that formation is grounded in the reality of life and marked by relationships that can be integrated into the social and cultural center. That is something that was brought up there in the. Okay, I think we're going to go quickly through this.
We have a quick visitor and we have to say goodbye.
Okay.
Yay!
Another advertisement. Okay.
She's going with Sister Teresa to Miami.
Okay.
What's wrong?
Ciao, Kitty.
Good to see you.
Blessings
You're
on
the
you,
present and the future. Salesian past pupil.
This is inviting lay people into the various aspects of ministry that are usually reserved for religious and consecrated life. So, for instance, the presence of lay people and families together with religious and priests for vocation animation programs, for religious education, for retreats. We can kind of rope them off and take them over ourselves. I'm talking about consecrated religious, or people who are have been members of the Salesian family leadership for a long time. We have to invite more and more into these opportunities so they can feel comfortable in taking greater and deeper areas of responsibility. Promoting the social teaching of the church. This is a big thing. This is where the voting for this year, this is a big area. And I suppose what you would find is that Father Chavez and Father Artime, now Cardinal, both when they're talking about lay people, they both use pretty much the same lines. Father Chavez said, Salesian family members get out of the sacristy. What they meant by that was, don't limit your service to the church and to the congregation or to the Salesian family to the liturgical ministries. Don't limit yourself to that. Readers, servers, and so forth. Father Artime went and took it in a different line. He said, don't limit your participation in Don Bosco's mission to doing what the STBs and the FMA tell you to do. You are responsible, and you can be active in reaching out to the young as groups. I would be a little suspicious if it was a person going off by him or herself, because there would be that need for some peer corrective by going with others and interacting. Remember, we were talking about northern Mexico, all of those groups that were running youth centers and hostels and so forth. They happened to have been cooperators, but it could have been anyone. The Moscow volunteers going to Tijuana. These are the things I think that we would take for granted or take into account in trying to delineate what a layperson can do after Vatican II. The door's wide open. We can't break canon law, of course. You can't say Mass, but there are ways in which you can participate in areas that are open and that you are privileged to participate in. All right, so that's the lay person and the church. Thank you for your attention.